Hello, everybody. How you doing? Been a few weeks. Uh, I'm running a little ragged. Uh, you'll have to pardon it if I can't. I'm not thinking clearly, and I've been AFib pretty strong, and have been, but I've been getting over about a bout of pneumonia, so that's not bad. Just part of what I'm dealing with. Good news. Next Wednesday, 7 a.m. I'm going in for an ablation, and it's supposed to fix this. Let's just see if it does. I ain't even shaved yet. I ain't shaved in 4 days. You got to get out of the shower and shave. No, don't have the energy. So pardon me if I don't make sense of some of this, but let's try to make sense of something fun. I don't trust myself to work on chainsaws. I've got saws to ship out. I haven't got it done yet. I got several boxed up. Just waiting for a way to get to the post office, which will get it done. And so if you're waiting on a saw, just be patient. This condition I've got is not permanent. There will be no damage. I just need a reset. That's all I need, just a reset. But here's what we got going on. We do far more on YouTube than just chainsaws, or in life rather. So I really think it's time for us to show some of the other things like this motor build. I've mentioned it several times, but we don't always get to watch all the videos, do we? This actually, the bottom end of this is an LS6 from a 70 Chevelle. They were rated at 450 horsepower. If I change them pistons in that, I can have a really good street 454, and it's a 454. But that whole top end is Cullen's, and it's going on his motor. 496, high compression, full bag drag, big block. And it'll produce, let's just say, upwards of 750 horsepower. How far upwards? We can go to now 1,000 horse, but it's not. 900 horse, 950 is safe enough for it. Good parts. But here's what we got going on. So we're going to follow along. And by the way, his motor's in the machine shop getting the machine work done, which was extensive on this motor. But let's build something simple. Let's build a motor anybody can build at home with just common tools and really just have fun with it. We have a local racetrack, Woodhull Raceway, here in Woodhull, New York. It's a dirt. It's a short track, high banks. Them banks, if they're any kind of wet, you can't walk up them. They're that steep. It's like racing in a mixer bowl, but it's got a drag strip in the middle on each side. Yeah, that's what it is. My hometown track, been going there for many years, built many very successful motors for it. But here's what they got. They have a class that's really unique and intriguing, and this is where you guys are going to relate to this build. Hobby stock. Just small block hobby stock, two-barrel stuff. They got to run street tires. So you know the deal there. You're limited on what you should do. I didn't say you could. Did you notice that? So I think what we should do for next year, we'll start the motor now. It takes quite a while to gather all the parts, especially when a lot of stuff is on back order and we're waiting. But let's go through what I've chosen to build and what's going to happen with it. Like I said, this is a simple motor. I've never built a motor like this. I just haven't. It's basically a step above stock. But what can you do? They got a lot of rules. 361 cubic inch in the Chevy Max. That's it. So the first thought I had, oh, by the way, this motor is going to go in somebody's race car. I thought it'd be good YouTube content. It's a cheap motor to build. Let's put it in a deserving team's car. I've got some in mind that I had been watching, and I'm sure that after this video, somebody will get a hold of me that wants to run a motor, especially an iron horse motor. Okay, now here's what we got to have. We can have an aluminum intake. It's a spec intake, though. It's what it is Edelbrock Performer. You can run that. Not a bad intake. It's it's track proven intake. They work. Okay, now on the other end of it, street headers with 2.5-inch collectors, 1 5/8 tubes. Okay, so that gives you the level of performance. It's something like you'd want to put in your pickup truck, wouldn't it? You know, it'd make a good truck motor, I think. But here's all the rules. You're only allowed a 1 1/4 inch, 1.25 valve spring. That's it. Old school. Stamped steel rockers, hydraulic camshaft, limited to 480 inches lift, 0.480, just under 1/2 inch. Okay. No dry sumps. Why would you? Hey, let's be real. 9.61 or less compression. I'm down with that. It has to have the rods and pistons have to be, basically a factory replacement. They can't be race oriented, so they gotta be an I-beam rod. You're allowed to have cap screws, which was a good idea. And instead of rod bolts, you can have cap screws, but it's got to be a stock appearing rod. I didn't say anything about a rod length, which in this motor, who cares what the rod length is? You can use an aftermarket crankshaft, but it's got to be a stock appearing crankshaft. It can be a cast steel, which a lot of guys will run a Scat or an Eagle crank, which is probably the same as I will. But let's just see what we can get out of one of these little buggers. Just like these chainsaws that I build, there is in between everything is a whole bunch that nobody said anything about. So I would like to get this motor in stages, tacked by the track inspector. Okay, just guarantee this thing is absolute as legal as all get out. Yeah, you can. I know there's people that like to cheat, will cheat, do cheat. It's been that way since the beginning of these racing, But let's see what we can do without breaking any of the rules. Let's just see what we can get out of it. The motor that's quite successful is a 602 crate motor. It looks like it does a good job. There's a lot of guys out there that's building their own motors. They're doing a fantastic job. I would normally say this is not a horsepower class, just because of fairly mild stock suspension, and with the street tires, you can just go to Walmart and buy a 235, and that's it. It just can't be a soft tire. It's got after the race, it's got the durometer reading. It's got to be 55 or higher, which sorts the tires out. But so it's not just one thing; it's a package. Okay, so some lucky guy is going to have a lot of fun next year off the channel. Yep, and like I said, it's a cheap motor. This is not big bucks, but it's a lot of thought has to go in things like this. The motor I've chosen is a 1997 Chevy Vortec 350. And hopefully the block's good. And if it is, we'll run the block too. Otherwise, it'll be a earlier block. But I've just got one of them sitting in the shop here. When we break it down, I'll show some videos of what we got and what we're going to do with it. Okay. Now, 480 lift hydraulic cam is plain and simple not going to make a lot of juice. It's just you're not going to do it. Okay, just like with these chainsaws, you can go hog wild, do heavy machining, do all kinds of crazy things. You can, and it's I preach not machining, so let's see if we can limit it. We have to bore, we know that. I'm not going to run 361 cubes. Let's go with just a loyal 355. It's a 350 board, 30 over. Let's just build that. And quite honestly, at a perfect block, I'd run it with a stock bore. Why wouldn't I in this class? But this is like restrictor plate racing for NASCAR. This is what this says. You're only going to pull with them headers and them rules. You're 9.6 to 1 compression, 480 lift, 2.5 inch collectors on a 1 5/8 tube. You're only going to pull so much. That's it. Plain and simple. Okay, and I'm talking about air. So how do we change that? I'm going to let some tricks out of the bag that I've done for years. Any of you that's ran my motors before already know what the deal is. They're pretty salty. But I build a motor for the track, number one. And that is very specified motor for that track. It's dry slick most of the time. Okay. So you get dry slick on freaking 7-inch 235 radials that you can put on your car or your pickup. You got a problem. And anybody with a racing mentality, you know where that goes. It's like, oh, he's going to get ahead of me. I'll just stand on it. Well, that cuts it right loose, don't it? So, as you know with the saws, we've talked a lot about the timing events, especially lately, of where mistakes are made in these chainsaws and why mine run good. Now, you want a lot of crack, a lot of quick RPMs, like you see that saw anything I built for Buck and Billy, and that saw I sent to Tin Man. You want to build that? I'm going to finish showing the rest of that as soon as I'm able. I need to get my whiteboard out of why that is. It's all about the port event timing. In a 4-stroke engine, like circle track car like we're building, it's valve event timing. That's huge for this. This class is huge. Now, we have to figure out how to draw more air through a 4412 Holley 2-barrel. It's 500 CFM. And I'm going to tell you what I think we're going to make for horsepower and torque. The only way we're going to know for sure is if we do dyno it. But I'd like to test the motor on the track this year, later in the year, just to see. But it's really for next year. I'm not going to push myself. I've got a lot of saws to build. But we need to get into what the rest of my life is. And so let's talk about how are we going to make this darn thing actually make any kind of horsepower. Quite honestly, I think if anybody's got 350 horse in its class using common methods, they did pretty freaking good. Yeah, they did. They did pretty good. And so if you're at 375 or over, you either know something, you're cheating. And a lot of guys think, oh, I can spot a cheating motor a mile away. Well, maybe you can't. Because if you get and understand airflow, just like we do with these saws, understand the airflow. What makes this airflow? Okay, valve event timing. It's important to have the right cam, the right valves. No port work. You can't touch nothing. You can't. You can put very bigger valves in. Okay, so let's get on that road. If I wanted to cheat, I'd just throw like a 520 lift cam and that, and away I'd go. Something in that category. Okay, we can't do that. Well, after researching about 50 camshafts, off-the-shelf stuff, I came down to 10 cams that would work in that class, would work, which I won't share any of them because, quite honestly, they're not good enough. Now, when we're porting these cylinders and we're altering the intake, transfer, and exhaust timing, we're building a camshaft, okay? We're building a custom camshaft. Oh, there's no camshaft involved. And we run pop-ups. Well, guess what? We're going to run a disc piston, more than likely. We can get away with a flat top, but geez, that's just an awful heavy head gasket. We can't do any milling to get. I'm looking for 9.2, 9.3 to 1 compression, 9.4, 9.5, I'll take. But I designed a camshaft. Okay. Now, this didn't take just a day or days. This took quite a long time because to get your valve event timing correct for something that's just a little short track racing in a mixing bowl, you had to really think about a lot of things. Okay, you can't have too much torque coming off the corner. Or cuts loose and you can't drive the darn thing. So we had to soften the bottom end. The problem is, the minute you start moving that around by changing the cam event timing, air lobe separation angle, and the duration built into the cam. I, quite honestly, always has been, in most classes, a 106 intake center line really worked quite well. But in this case, with the cam that I've come up with, we can move that plus or minus 4 degrees easy. Okay, we can run it. We can run it down 102 on the center line, but that pulls a lot of torque. We're going to rev it just a little harder probably than what these guys are used to seeing. I understand a lot of them are going 56, 5800. I want to give this the ability to pull a lot more RPMs than that, okay? And end with the parts that are legal. This is what I want to do. I think if a motor stopped at 7,200, that's probably good. 6,800 would be better. You can only go so far with a hydraulic camshaft because the darn things will start pumping up and they'll get wonky on you. So I've never pushed RPMs in hydraulic camshaft classes. It's actually a complete waste of time in my eyes. I'm allowed to say that because I'm old, right? But I had to go to Bullet Cams. They're the ones that would listen to me. I called one other cam manufacturer and said, hey, I come up with this profile. What I wanted was, this is where I wanted this cam to be able to run at, and I had the work done already. Oh, no, we don't do that. You can't. You're not smart enough, Harv. You can't build your own cam. Well, I am in this. It's the same sets of numbers. What am I trying to get it to do? Trying to get it to run as much RPMs in the cut as it will and have good power. Okay. So let's chainsaw the living hell out of a freaking hobby stock motor. Let's do that. You wanna? I think it's gonna be fun, isn't it? With my numbers. So we're gonna take chainsaw numbers, alter them to suit our needs. We're gonna figure out how to draw more air through that Holly 2-barrel than it was intended. Okay? Straight away. More than it was intended. And we're gonna get the tech guys involved. One of you guys at Woodhull is going to have a lot of fun next season because it's always better to run somebody else's motors. I'll tell you what, that isn't. Motor builders have a problem. They want to tell you how to set your car up and how to drive. I ain't got time for it. Chassis guys want to tell you how the motor's got to be built. Most drivers don't frickin' care. They just want to go out and have fun. Stand on the gas, turn left. You know the deal. And rubbin's racing. That's the way it is. There's an awful lot of you circle track guys out there. Dirt track, blacktop even. That know a lot of things that I don't know. If you got suggestions, put them in the comments. Because I love how much better things can get when everybody gets involved. 2 heads are better than 1. 50 are better than 1. So the more of you that have input on how to keep this class legal engine and make it do what it's capable of doing and following the rules. 480 lift, 9.61 compression, hydraulic cam. This is where we're at, and the Edelbrock Performer spec intake. Now here's what I already know. Through a lot of research and some just plain good old common sense, the Vortec head, unported, really seriously can't go 500 lift because it just quits flowing. It just stops. And it really starts slowing down pretty good by the time you get to 470 lift. But 480 lift is great. Not 500. Okay, problem solved. It looks like the intake valve. Now, we can put 202s and 160s in this for intake and exhaust. What it looks like, and this is backed up by engine flow data, head flow data, that's very, very credible. If you put a 202 valve in that head, that in the combustion chamber, that valve's too close. It's shrouded. You want to have a little room for that air to get around that. So that actually hurts that, putting a 202 in there. Now, that's got that 150 inch and a half exhaust valve. That doesn't flow as good as a 160. But guess what? If you leave that 194 in there and go to a 160 exhaust with a 480 lift cam that's got the right numbers, don't get too radical, guys, but get radical enough. Think about how this has to work and what the center line's got to be and lobe centeration of the intake and lobe separation. And at some point, I'll tell you where we ended up once we get there. I won't have the cam till the end of June, so we got lots of time. Just got to find the pistons and get the block board. And we're in the same project. So we're going to flip between Collins 496 and this little hobby stock build that's just going to be it's going to be a hoot to build. But you guys out there know things that are legal, and I want to know them too. I'm just telling you where I'm at so far. Now, there are 64cc chambers, what they're telling me. I haven't CC'd it. How come they look bigger than that to me? They do. But that's what they claim. They're 64cc, and they probably are. So, I am not sure of what the capabilities of this engine really is. I will tell you what I would like to see, okay? What I want to see. I want to see 390 horse and 420 pounds of torque. That's what I want to see, okay? This should be doable even with massive rules like this. Okay, so what we have to do is we can only make so much horsepower, okay? That's it with them rules. But just like chainsaws, and I've showed you a lot of it, in fact, most of it, where the free horsepower is. So what we have to do is go through all of these events in this engine, everything that's happening, and free up horsepower. We want what's free. Sometimes free is very expensive in it, but we're not going down that road. We want this to be a motor that an average guy with an average job can go and got a family, can be able to build at home for this class. This is what I want. I don't want to see somebody try to build a late model engine and detune it enough to throw it in a freaking hobby stock. I want to see what does this take. So let's get free horsepower if we can. And anybody's got any ideas, you might think your idea is so crazy that why would I bother mentioning it? He already knows what he's doing. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. But guess what? So don't you. And maybe your idea is crazy. Maybe this whole concept's crazy. But it might lead to something better. Or you nail it. You just freaking nail it. Everybody's got something good to offer when it comes to an engine. This is guaranteed fact. Can't wait to see Cohen's motor out of the shop. After surgery, give me a week and I'll be back making videos. Just to heck don't have it. We got some really, really cool builds coming up. We got a finished Buckins 95cc 372. I've got a lot of saws to get built and a couple repairs to do, which I'm not able right now. So get in the comments, guys. Tell me what you think of the concept. This channel is based on chainsaws. It'll always remain chainsaws. But we're going to throw the lighter side of life, other things too, as it crops up. You know, plain and simple the way it ought to be anyway, isn't it? Okay, guys, thanks for your patience. Thanks for your time. I love all of you. And I'll see you later. Goodbye.